Hi! In this video you'll get an overview of the tech skills you need to become a web developer in 2021. You'll also get the best courses and resources to acquire those skills. I'm a developer for over 20 years now. I'm a self-taught developer and I know how hard it is to learn something on your own. The problem now is that there are so many languages and tools and frameworks out there. Which one should you learn? And for each there are thousands of courses. Super confusing. It can be hard to decide when you can see that there are hundreds of courses just for Python. And this frustrates many beginners, because it's hard to know where to start and know what is relevant and which course is best. And if there is no one, no instructor and no community to ask for help, you can waste not days but weeks and months. To make it easier for you, I've selected the best courses and resources for you, and I've arranged them into a learning path. Having those courses and videos selected for you will simplify your decision making. First, subscribe to my channel. The button is down here, somewhere. Today you can learn all you need. All you need is a computer and an internet connection. There is no excuse. All you need is time and persistence. Do not give up when something is not working and you can't figure it out. The job of a web developer is to figure things out and to solve problems. In the beginning, you might not know what to specialize for. You might end up creating user interfaces, that is called Frontend. Or you might be creating server code, that is called Backend. You might be an all-rounder, that is called a full-stack developer. Maybe you will narrow your field into mobile development. You might be a master of Android development. Or you will prefer to work with the servers and make sure that everything works fine by managing infrastructure, deployment and configuration. Or you might prefer to write about technology and create software documentation. Or be an expert in search engine optimization. What I want to say is you don't need to know it all. There's enough for everybody. Just find a field that gives you pleasure and a field where you may be naturally good at. For example, I have no eye for beauty. The design is not my thing, but I like coding. And I recently discovered I like writing too. And I like making videos like this. This video will give you a technology overview. For each topic I introduce, there are hundreds of courses covering it. I selected those that in my opinion are the best. It might relieve you of the burden of too many decisions. I'll start with concepts every developer needs to know. Where should you begin if you are brand new to programming? The first you need is to know the basics of the internet. How does it work? Learn about browsers and how they work. What is domain name and hosting? And what do HTTP, HTTPS, SSH mean? Here is an excellent video from one of my favorite instructors explaining the basics of the internet. By the way, all the links are in the description below. Some of the links will be affiliate links. If you find anything you like, I'd be grateful if you buy from the link. In any direction, you will need Git. Git is a version control system. Git will help you manage versions of your apps and revert when you need to. Git will make your life way easier. If you're using Windows, then I recommend Git Bash instead of using the command prompt. A great graphical tool is the Git source tree. Here are two Git tutorials I recommend for beginners. One is a written tutorial, like a simple Hello World for Git. And the other one is from Udacity. On Udacity you can find many high-quality free courses. I know the next can sound scary, but you'll need to know at least the basics of the terminal, the command line tool. FreeCodeCamp has a nice free video tutorial on YouTube. FreeCodeCamp is the top free programming tutorial resource. For work, you will need an editor, an IDE. IDE is more than a simple editor. IDEs boost productivity by reducing setup time and increasing the speed of development tasks. A free IDE I use is Visual Studio Code. You can find my favorite Visual Studio extensions in the description and also a link to Visual Studio Code shortcuts. I know, I'm a nice person. No matter what direction you go, you will need to have at least basic HTML, CSS and JavaScript knowledge. If you decide to be a front-end developer, then you will be an expert in this. In simple terms, HTML elements are the building blocks of every page. CSS is a style sheet for these documents. With CSS, you color the buttons, size them. Basically, you design a page. And JavaScript is a scripting or programming language that runs in the browser. Frontend developer will take the website design files, then he will convert them into HTML, JavaScript, and CSS code. As a front-end developer, you will link together the world of design and technology. The interface you'll make will interact with the backend. FreeCodeCamp has a full course on HTML5 and CSS3 you can take. After you learn how to make a website, you'll need a server, a host to host it. The next step is to learn about hosting and cloud providers. If your site is static, meaning if it's built only with HTML, CSS and JavaScript, you can host it for free on GitHub Pages or Netlify. Another option is managed hosting, like Bluehost. It's the best managed hosting provider, by the way. The next option are cloud solutions, like Heroku, DigitalOcean, Google, Amazon, Microsoft Azure, and IBM. Since you know how to create a static website, here's the next step. A tutorial on how to build and deploy websites on Netlify. Enjoy having your first project up and running. After you have your first win, you'll go and get acquainted with advanced fundamentals. You cannot be in web development if you don't know what web services and RESTful APIs are. They help applications communicate with each other over the internet. Watch this video on YouTube to know more about APIs. Then you learn about web APIs like DOM, Fetch, local storage, and service workers. These are APIs for the browser. They help with apps working online and offline, and more. Watch free resources in the description. So far so good. If you've come so far, you are on your way to becoming a real web developer. Now we get to some serious talk. Data structures, algorithms, space and time complexity. These are the fundamentals if you want to learn to code. I've given you a few free resources and a few paid. Zero to Master is one of my favorite platforms. Andre explains all concepts in depth and super simple. Master the Coding Interview is a course you will want to revisit before going to any job interview. It includes common questions about data structures and algorithms asked on a job interviews. Security is the next topic you will want to know at least the basics of. Learn about HTTPS and CORS. There are plenty of high-quality free courses you can take to start learning about web development. FreeCodeCamp and Codecademy are excellent choices and are great to set your foundations. I recommend a few bootcamp courses, like the one from Angela Yu and Cold Steel. You can watch a review of both Udemy courses on this channel. You can find them in my reviews playlist. Another one is from Zero to Mastery, I have already mentioned. Zero to Mastery is a subscription-based platform, and you can find great courses there, like this one, The Complete Web Developer in 2021. You will not regret subscribing to their platform. Anyways, sooner or later, you will be deciding what path to follow. As you remember, front-end developers focus on building user interfaces. Backend developers build web services and other code that runs on the servers, and not in the browser like JavaScript. There are two more alternative paths if you like technology but are not into coding that much. You can become a master of search engine optimization and help businesses to get discovered. Or you can specialize in technical writing and create software documentation, like API documentation. A good technical writer can earn as much as a good developer, and they get to explore the latest technology while developers do it. Anyways, if you are interested in SEO, go to SEOMOS. It's where I explore. Coursera also has a good specialization. And if you decide you'd prefer to write and make e-learning topics, then watch Google's technical writing courses. I also like this written API documentation free course from a super exciting blogger and podcaster. Okay, let's start with front-end development. As a front-end developer, you will link together the world of design and technology. The interface you'll make will interact with the backend. You will become an expert in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. When learning about CSS, you'll go deeper into the syntax and positioning. You'll learn about Flexbox and CSS Grid and responsive web design. FreeCode Camp has great videos you can watch. They also have a video about Sass, which is CSS preprocessor. Sass is not a must. You'll be working with frameworks and libraries. No worries, you won't need to know them all. Just check them out to see what you can use. The next thing you will need to master as a front-end web developer is JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language that runs in the browser. As a front-end developer, you will for sure work in one of the popular JavaScript frameworks like React and Angular or Vue. I know it will be tempting to go straight to learning a framework, but do yourself a favor. Learn the concepts of JavaScript before you dive into a framework. You need to be familiar with the syntax and basic constructs and JavaScript asynchronous features. Learn the latest JavaScript features and understand concepts like hosting, event bubbling, scope, shadow DOM, and strict. You will learn how to manipulate DOM, fetch data from the server with fetch, and other web APIs like notifications, local storage, and service workers. Mozilla's JavaScript guide is a definitive and standard reference. The other course I recommend is on Udemy from Jonas Schmidtmann. The course was recently updated. I made a review of it. You can watch it here. For the advanced JavaScript features, I also recommend Zero to Mastery. It will teach you closures, modules, all that you need to be at the top 10% of JavaScript developers. So, how to choose the best framework? The answer is not so simple. It's not about which framework is the best. It's about which framework solves the problem you need to solve best. But very simplified. Angular is a full-blown framework that solves many things out. On the other hand, has a very solid opinion on how you need to do things. You won't be doing a simple plugin with it. Vue, on the other hand, is very lightweight, and React is somewhere in the middle. I would suggest you start exploring React. Zero to Mastery has a great complete React developer course where you can go from a complete beginner to advanced topics like state management with Redux, hooks, and GraphQL for data manipulation. Maximilian Schwarzmüller has an excellent course on Angular. It is up to date and Maximilian is a great instructor. You can check out his YouTube channel to see how you like his teaching style. He also teaches Vue. Both courses are super long, but you will learn all you need and you will be building projects while learning. As a front-end developer, you will use Git daily. The basic commands you will use each day are commit, push, pull, merge, and branch. For advanced usage, check out Udemy course from Jason Taylor. And Git is not all you will use. You will use all sorts of tools from package managers like npm and npm scripts to WebPack, the module bundler. ESLint will analyze your code, and you'll be using Babel for compiling. Browser web tools will help you find bugs, and Lighthouse speed up your apps. You will learn how to test your code and deploy it. One thing I really recommend is that you learn how to use Chrome's DevTools. Check out the YouTube crash course in the description. Here is also an npm tutorial for beginners and a WebPack tutorial. Also, check out this talk on the introduction to front-end testing. All free on YouTube. Once you come to this point, you'll be ready for more advanced topics. You might just become an expert in one of them, but you can at least get familiar with what is what. TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. You will use it in bigger projects. And Maximilian has a great course on Udemy you can take. Progressive web apps are advanced apps. They can be live like a chat. They can work offline or send push notifications. Sockets help you create a live app that can communicate two ways, like in games or chat apps. With local storage, you can store some data in a browser without a backend database. Service workers improve performance and enable the app to work offline. There is a great course on Udemy about progressive web apps. Check it out. Jamstack is a way of doing things on the web. It's a sort of architecture that includes JavaScript frameworks, static site generators, headless CMSs, and content delivery networks. Check out the free course on YouTube. WebAssembly is something I've not worked with before. It's a new type of code that can be run in modern web browsers. It's like a low-level assembly-like language that can run on the web. Check out the instructions on YouTube. With front-end technologies like JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, you can also create mobile applications. The framework for it is Ionic. And if you'd like to create cross-platform mobile apps that work both on iPhone and Android, then you can check out React Native and Flutter from Google. We'll go deeper into mobile development later in this video. I'll tell you all about it. You can get great courses on Udemy. Right now, there is a sale and they cost only $9. You can learn all these tools for the cost of a lunch or two. You can also use front-end technologies for mobile applications. Many editors were created with Electron, the framework for desktop applications. GraphQL is an alternative to web services APIs. There's a big chance you'll be using GraphQL in your projects. One pretty great tutorial is free on YouTube, and the other one I recommend is on Udemy. Static site generators help you create blazingly fast websites. The greatest generator today is Gatsby. Gatsby is a smart site generator, not just a generator. The best course on Gatsby is from Tom on Udemy. And there is also Jekyll. Jekyll is a much simpler generator, perfect for smaller websites. I have a course on Udemy. You can contact me if you need a coupon for the course anytime. You can also learn about server-side rendering. And I've made a video explaining how server-side rendering with Next differs from the site rendering with Gatsby. You can watch it on this channel. As a front-end developer, you will need to be familiar with using content management systems. The most spread traditional CMS is WordPress. I'll tell you sincerely, I don't like it. If you want to get rid of me, tell me you need me to make a WordPress website. Even so, more than 30 of the websites are done with WordPress, and you might want to learn it. But to create plugins of your own, you'll need to learn how backend apps are done. WordPress is done with PHP, a language I started working with more than 20 years ago. What I would recommend is getting to know the headless type of CMSs. Headless CMS still provides a way to author content, but instead of having your content coupled to a particular output, like a web page rendering, it provides your data content or data over an API. WordPress also has a headless version. Here is an excellent tutorial from FreeCodeCamp that will teach you all the important things about creating a WordPress website. Other headless CMSs worth mentioning is Netlify CMS and Sanity.io. You can find great free tutorials about Netlify CMS and Sanity.io in the description. The others are Strappy, Contentful, and Prismic. You don't need to know them all, check them out, and when a project comes, you will know what to choose from. But yes, to work on a CMS and implement new features, you need to work with a backend. This is the end of the front-end path. In short, you will be a master of UI, expert in HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, and at least one of its framework. You will use tools like Git, module bundlers, compilers, package managers, Chrome DevTools, and more. You will be testing your apps and become a master of more advanced topics like progressive web apps, Jamstack, static site generators, and more. Let's dive into the backend path. As a backend developer, you will implement the server-side business logic. You will be implementing user authentication and working with databases. You'll take care of data validation and data storage. You will schedule processes and you'll be responsible for server-side web application logic and the integration of the work front-end web developers do. Backend developers usually write web services and APIs. APIs used by the front-end developers and mobile application developers. If you follow both paths, the front-end and the backend, you'll become a full-stack developer. A full-stack developer is a jack of all trades. He or she knows about front-end technologies and back-end technologies. He has a full understanding of the complete tech stack. The first thing you need to do as a back-end developer is to pick a back-end language to learn. For beginners, I would recommend you pick one of the scripting languages. Because JavaScript is both on server and client, Node.js would be a great start. Another option based on popularity and usability is Python. It's also quite easy to learn. Other options are Ruby, PHP, and TypeScript. Functional programming languages are specially designed to handle symbolic computation and list processing applications. Functional programming is based on mathematical functions. In my opinion, functional languages are good for game AIs and mathematical equations, including machine learning. Functional languages are Scala, Haskell, Erlang, Clojure, and Elixir. Java is a popular language used for heavy server applications. And Rust is known for its security and is the most popular language in Stack Overflow for the last 2 years. Other popular choices are .NET Core and C++. C++ is used for operating systems and databases, anything where raw performance or close integration with hardware or operating system is important. Then Kotlin. You can use Kotlin for any development, server-side, client-side web, or Android. With Kotlin Native currently in the works, support for other platforms such as embedded system, macOS, and iOS is coming. Google developed the programming language Dart. It is used to build mobile, desktop, server, and web applications. And data miners use R language for developing statistical software and data analysis. Go is a flexible language able to solve a lot of problems. You can use it for system and network programming, big data, machine learning, audio and video editing, and more. Again, like with anything in technology, it's not about which language is best. It's about figuring out what would best solve the problem you have at hand. Anyways, start with Python or Node first. If you have absolutely no prior knowledge of programming, then start with Coursera's Python for Everybody specialization. I've made a review of the specialization here on YouTube. Then I recommend 2 more courses on Udemy if you really want to master Python. For Node.js, there is a nice introduction on FreeCodeCamp and a great course on Udemy from Andrew Mead and Rob Percival, both exceptional instructors. I've also listed other courses for the languages, which you can check out in this video description. When you pick the language, you start with the basic syntax. You learn about data structures and algorithms. You will get acquainted with design patterns, standards, and best practices of the language. No matter what kind of projects you are doing and what languages and tools you are using, keep in mind 2 strategies. The first one is the KISS method. KISS method stands for Keep It Super Simple. Do not overcomplicate when it's not needed. What you could also have in mind is MVP. MVP is a minimal viable product. First, do the simple example of the code functionality, then add to that. And do not overcomplicate anything, which goes well with the next method. That is Yagni. It means you ain't gonna need it. That is very often true. So my friend, keep it simple, yes? Learning a backend framework will be the next thing on your list. A framework is a foundation on which you build your program. It's a set of libraries you can use, or better, it's a skeleton on which you build your apps. There are several for each programming language. The most popular one for Node.js is Express. Express has a lot of utilities and features, making development easier. Django or Flask are a popular choice for Python, and Ruby on Rails for Ruby. PHP has Laravel, and Java programmers prefer Spring. Jose Portilla on Udemy has a great full-stack developer bootcamp where he teaches Python and Django, but also other technologies, not only for the backend. Express is super simple. You can watch the free video on FreeCodeCamp to learn about it. Java ecosystem is more complicated. That is why I recommend the Spring Framework Masterclass. You will learn Java Spring Framework with Spring Boot, connect to databases with Spring JDBC and Hibernate. You'll be testing with JUnit and Mockito. It's an excellent course. As a backend developer, you'll also be familiar with servers and cloud providers and all the services they provide. The best cloud providers are Google Cloud, Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, IBM, then Heroku, and DigitalOcean. Coursera has a great specialization, teaching you about developing applications on the cloud. There's another popular concept, and that is serverless computing. It's an execution model where the cloud provider is responsible for executing a piece of code by dynamically allocating the resources. The code still runs on the server, but it allocates machine resources on the demand. Cloud provider only charges for the amount of resources that were used to run the code. If your code is only executed a few times a day for a minimal task, why would you pay for a full-blown server? You can watch an introduction to serverless on YouTube, showing you how to run a serverless code on the AWS. There are two things you'll be doing for sure if you are a web developer. You'll be testing your apps, and sooner or later you'll be implementing authentication and authorization. Almost every app also needs user authentication and authorization. Authentication means confirming your own identity. In comparison, authorization means granting access to the system. Authentication is the process of verifying who you are, and authorization is verifying what you have access to. OAuth is an authentication protocol you must know. It allows you to approve one application interacting with another one on your behalf without giving away your password. You also need to be familiar with JWT or JSON Web Token, Basic Authentication, and OpenID. FreeCodeCamp explains tokens and JWT authentication perfectly, and Traverse Media created a great tutorial about Node.js with passport authentication. For testing, I recommend the complete software testing course on Udemy. And if you're working with the APIs, the most efficient tool is Postman. With Postman, you can make API calls and test them. There is a great course on Udemy to learn about Postman and REST API testing. So what else? Databases. Most apps need to store and read a lot of data. To do so, you need databases. There are two types of databases, SQL and NoSQL. SQL databases are used for data that is very structured, and in types of apps where you need to make complex queries to get a specific information from this highly connected information. On the other hand, NoSQL databases are great when you have lots of data that is not structured and does not have many relations. FreeCodeCamp again has a great tutorial for beginners when you can learn about SQL and queries. The SQL database I recommend and is most often used is PostgreSQL. You can watch a full course on YouTube, again from FreeCodeCamp. And the most used NoSQL database is MongoDB. Maximilian Schwarzmuller has the best course about MongoDB. You'll learn all about MongoDB there is in the course. I've made a review of the best MongoDB courses. Watch it on this channel. And yes, you'll be working on creating APIs. APIs and web services are how the internet apps communicate with each other. RESTful API is the most common way of communication. You can watch a course on Udemy to learn about APIs and web services in depth. Another more rounded course is Complete Web Developer in 2001 from Zero to Mastery. Besides all the web development topics, you'll also build an API. And now the advanced topics. Here the development becomes interesting. Many apps nowadays, like chat for example, are real-time. To create real-time apps, you need to learn about WebSockets. You can watch this free video on YouTube to learn about WebSockets. It's a beginner guide to WebSockets. When you have lots of data and lots of traffic, you will need to cache data to ensure better performance. For caching, you can use Memcache or Redis. Here is a great introduction to Memcache on YouTube. You might want to specialize in IoT and embedded systems. The Internet of Things, IoT, means a system of internet-connected objects or things that are able to collect and transfer data over a wireless network without human intervention. For example, connected appliances, smart home security systems, autonomous farming equipment, wearable health monitors, and more. Coursera has two great specializations. The first one is an introduction to programming the Internet of Things, and the other one, development of secure embedded systems. Both will give you a foundation. Automated deployment is more of a sysops theme, but a good developer should know how to work with a Docker containers. Some basic knowledge of how Kubernetes works is also a plus. Steven Grider has a complete guide to Docker and Kubernetes on Udemy. Perfect course. Try to catch it on a sale. To get this knowledge for a few dollars is super cheap. GraphQL is a new and popular alternative to the APIs. You can manipulate and query data without having to write an API. With GraphQL, you will use Apollo server and Apollo client. You can learn about GraphQL and how to integrate it with React Frontend in Steven Grinder's course. Why do I recommend his courses? Well, he's one of the instructors who knows how to explain complex concepts in a super simple way. After taking his courses, I know what to look for when I get stuck, because I know how things work. A message broker is a software that enables applications, systems, and services to communicate with each other and exchange information. You can watch a free intro to message brokers on YouTube. I also posted a link to a great RabbitMQ crash course. RabbitMQ is the most popular among message brokers. Alright, this is it. This runs the backend development path. You will be selecting a language, a framework, learning about servers and the cloud, and you'll master security and testing, work with data and databases, create web services, and you'll dive into more advanced topics. It will never be boring, I promise. Let's go on a mobile development journey. Mobile apps are everywhere, and every product has a mobile version in the App Store. And there are a few paths to become a mobile developer. Right now you'll learn about the different types of mobile apps. Depending on your skill set and user case, you have to pick the type of mobile app that you are building. The three types of apps are native apps, cross-platform native apps, and hybrid apps. Native apps are those that are built exclusively for the specific platform. They could be an iOS apps or Android apps, or even Windows apps. Mobile developer who works on a native app development need to pick and specialize in one of these platforms. You will hardly ever meet a native mobile developer who builds both iOS and Android apps. This is because the skill sets to build iOS versus Android native apps are different. Native apps are the most traditional way of building a mobile app. Let's say you want to build a native iOS app. Let's see what that means. Apple devices are super popular. For some, it's even a sign of prestige. Millions of people love Apple devices and own an iPhone or an iPad. If your target audience mostly uses iOS devices, you will be creating an app that makes their experiences best. To create iOS apps, you would need to learn either Swift or Objective-C for coding the app. Apple is known to be restrictive when compared to others. They do not support open source like others, like Google and Facebook. Swift and Objective-C are languages that are used to exclusively build iOS apps, and you might not find any value in them outside the Apple ecosystem. You will need a MacBook to develop native iOS apps, and that would be your first purchase as an iOS developer. You can find a complete iOS app development bootcamp course on Udemy from Angela Yu. She is a known bootcamp teacher, super sweet and knowledgeable. Rijwendelich has great courses both on iOS and Android, and other alternatives I'll tell you about in a minute. Android has the largest number of users even today, and building native Android applications is another career path in becoming a mobile developer. Java is a popular programming language to develop Android applications. And recently, Kotlin has also been emerging as a popular alternative to Java in developing native Android applications. Kotlin provides similar syntax and concepts from other languages, including C#, Java, and Scala, among many others. And it's open source, and you can write functional or object-oriented code. Since Android applications use open source languages like Kotlin, it's easier to use them, and it provides a better experience. You can find a great free course on Udacity that will teach you how to develop Android apps with Kotlin. And Android developer guides are also a great example of good documentation. And I've made a review of several Android courses on Udemy. Check it out in this channel. Let's go to cross-platform apps. Although native development is still a good option as a career path, it's not always necessary to build native mobile applications. Cross-platform apps are becoming increasingly popular these days. Cross-platform means you can develop apps both for Android and iOS with a single codebase. This saves time and money. Then why would you even build native apps? When you build a native app, you have a complete integration with the hardware. You can easily access the camera, GPS, phone, and touch screen. And it's not so with other apps. Also, the security is better, the launch is easier, and a better user experience. As with anything in web development, you need to think about your options based on your requirements. If your users mostly use Android or iOS, then definitely go with native apps. Also, if your app core functionality is based on easy access to mobile features, it needs to be smooth and fast, and therefore native is the only way. Okay, let's go back. Also, in cross-platform apps you have several options. One is React Native, that is JavaScript, then you have Flutter with Dart from Google, and Xamarin with C#. React Native is one of the most popular cross-platform mobile framework that is used to build native mobile apps. Facebook developed and open-sourced it in 2015. React Native is built using JavaScript and React, and Udemy has a practical guide to React Native. Flutter has become popular as well. Flutter is Google's open-source SDK for creating apps for Android and iOS using a single codebase. It's written in Dart. Although Dart is relatively easy to pick up, and it is a good programming language, it does not have the popularity of JavaScript. And developers starting on Flutter would need to learn Dart. Developers from C++ and Java background can relate to Dart more than JavaScript developers. Plus, the Google community is super invested. Google is heavily backing Flutter, just like Facebook is backing React Native. There are 2 courses on Udemy worth considering if you want to learn Flutter. One is from Angela Yu and the other one from Maximilian Schwarzmüller. Both are great. Just pick up an instructor you connect with more. You can watch free videos or find them on YouTube. Xamarin is a cross-platform open-source platform using .NET and C#. Xamarin is a part of the vibrant .NET ecosystem used by millions of developers worldwide. If you're already familiar with Microsoft technologies like C# and .NET, jumping to Xamarin will be easier. So, what would I recommend? If you're a web developer with JavaScript experience who is getting into mobile development, pick React Native. And if you have experience with Java or C++, try out Flutter. It may be more familiar to you. And if you are from the C# or .NET world, then Xamarin will be your best choice. There is another category of cross-platform apps called hybrid apps. It's a bit different. Unlike apps built with React Native or Flutter, hybrid apps do not have access to native features of the mobile device out of the box. They use external plugins like Apache Cordova to integrate native features to the app. Hybrid apps render their graphical elements via a browser, which takes several steps to show the screen's component. They are essentially web views. With hybrid technologies like Ionic, it's easier to convert the web app into a progressive web app that can be downloaded just like any other mobile app. Ionic is a hybrid solution to build your mobile apps. It allows you to use standard web technologies like JavaScript, HTML, and CSS to build high-quality cross-platform apps. It has the same principles you code once, and that code can be deployed cross-platform on iOS, Android, web, and desktop. Ionic Framework has released a free ebook explaining the differences between a hybrid app versus a native app. If Ionic is the one you choose, then take a course on Udemy. The link is in the description. And I've come to the end of the mobile path. You can choose to develop native apps, cross-platform apps, or hybrid apps. And even in those, you need to decide between Android and iOS and between Google or Facebook or Windows. Okay, you've come far. Let's take a look at another possible path to follow if you're learning web development. DevOps. DevOps combines cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increase delivery of applications and services at high speed. DevOps is way faster than an organization using traditional software development processes. If this is something that inspires you, then start with the basics. Pick a programming language for backend like Go, Python, Ruby, Node, Rust. Then understand different OS concepts, process management, I/O management, virtualization, networking concepts. Learn about Linux fundamentals and Bash scripting, learn how to manage web servers, learn about networking, security and protocols. Find out about proxies, caching servers, load balancers, and learn how to set them up. Git will be your friend. You can find a Getting Started video on YouTube that covers all the basics. It's from Free Code Camp, like all the other free courses. The next thing to learn is managing the cloud. Learn about providers like Google Cloud, Amazon AWS, Azure, Heroku, and IBM, and learn how to design infrastructure for the cloud. You can find architectural patterns for the cloud on YouTube. And you can take the AWS Certified Cloud Partitioner training free on Free Code Camp. Coursera also has good specializations. Developing applications with Google Cloud Platform and AWS fundamentals. The specializations will get you started. As a DevOps specialist, infrastructure as code will be your thing. You will master containers with Docker, manage orchestration with Kubernetes, you will use Ansible for configuration management, Istion for service mesh, and Terraform for provisioning. I cannot say enough praise for Nana on YouTube. She makes excellent tutorials for all DevOps topics. She is your go-to girl for DevOps. You can learn about DevOps deployment automation on AWS with Udemy's course. The build tools are used to automate the creation of executable applications from source code. Build tools automate various tasks, such as downloading dependencies, compiling and packaging code, running tests, and deployment. Continuous integration is a development practice that requires developers to integrate code into a shared repository several times a day. Each check-in is then verified by an automated build, allowing teams to detect problems early. The most recommended tools are Jenkins, followed by Circle CI, Travis CI, TeamCity, GitLab CI, and GitHub Actions. As a DevOps guy or girl, you will monitor infrastructure, applications, and take care of logging. It's a super exciting path to follow. And for the end, a data science path with machine learning. I'm not a data science or machine learning expert, but what I have learned I have found on Coursera. Coursera was co-founded by Andrew Ng, who is a businessman, computer scientist, investor, and a writer. He's focusing on machine learning and AI. He also teaches on Stanford University and is a founder of Deep Learning. I find courses on Coursera most insightful and engaging. If you want to follow the data science path, then you need to start with the basics. The specializations I would recommend are Python for Everybody from the University of Michigan. The teacher is super cool. You can watch a review of the specialization on this channel. The next one is Data Science Specialization from Johns Hopkins. It will teach you on how to use R to clean, analyze, and visualize data. You will learn the whole data science pipeline from data acquisition to publication. Applied Data Science with Python from the University of Michigan is another great specialization. You will conduct an inferential statistical analysis, enhance it with machine learning, and learn to recognize if data visualization is good or bad. Mathematics for Machine Learning will help you implement mathematical concepts using real-world data. You cannot be a good data scientist without a solid mathematical and statistical knowledge. Another two comprehensive specializations are Machine Learning and Deep Learning. Coursera is a place to go when you want to get familiarized with data science and machine learning. Alright. In the description below you can find all the resources I mentioned in this video. I hope this video helps you navigate the landscape of web development. All the courses I recommend are the ones that I like. I hope this helps your decision making. There is a lot to learn and you can't master it all at once. One day, one topic, one bug at a time, and you will become a master. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and have a great day. Bye bye!